Right, welcome back. Now, as people gather to mourn former President FW de Klerk, one man is still mourning his father 36 years on. Fort Calata was tortured and murdered by Apartheid security forces in 1985. Nobody was ever charged or appeared in court for his and other members of the Cradock 4's deaths. De Klerk sat in on meetings of the State Security Council where these killings were discussed and planned. Today, government is hosting a state memorial for de Klerk. He died last month after a long battle with cancer. Joining me now to speak on the life of Fort Calata and FW de Klerk's role in his death is Calata's son, Lucanyo. Lucanyo, thank you so much for your time. Now, you know, this is a question that I asked Professor Sipho Siepe, the political analyst. There are people, and I know that there's state obligations, and the professor is quite right, there's state obligations to, afford a person who was a former president or former minister a state memorial or state funeral. Are you happy with this decision to still keep it that way with this particular former statesman?
Maseko, good morning, and thank you so much for having us. Look, the government also has an obligation and a protocol to serve families whose members have been killed with justice. So if the ANC government cannot serve my family and the families of the other Cradock 4 members with justice and uphold that protocol, why then does the ANC government decide that it will uphold a protocol to serve someone like FW de Klerk, who presided over crimes against our humanity? Why would they give him a state memorial service? This is just part of the deal. You have to understand that the ANC is trying to pander to the needs of the white community over the needs of the black community in this country. I think what's happening today, Maseko, is if there was ever any doubt why we need to ensure that the ANC does not hold power in this country, what's happening today proves to anybody that the ANC cares only for the needs of the white people over the needs of the black people in this country.
And, he did release that video apologizing, saying that he's changed his mind. His view about apartheid suddenly changed in the past year or so, from him saying last year that apartheid was not really that bad and it wasn't a crime against humanity, to now releasing a video after his death, of course. His family releasing this video saying that he is sorry. Are you accepting of that video? Does it soothe you in any way?
No, of course not. De Klerk was never apologetic at all about apartheid. You see, it's easy for me to say sorry to you, Maseko, but then turn around and continue to do things that are harmful to you, because talk is cheap, right? What we needed to see is for de Klerk to walk the talk, to actually do sorry, not just say sorry, but to do sorry. What de Klerk did not do was to give us as the families of the Cradock 4, or even the families of those young children in North Crescent and Mthatha, the Mpendulo family. What he did not do was to come to us and say, you know what, this is the truth behind the murders of your loved ones. Here is the truth, and I'm hoping that by me coming forward with this information, it can help you heal. Instead, de Klerk ignored my mother. He ignored Mrs. Nyameka Koniwa, who eventually died last year while waiting for justice for her husband. So whatever de Klerk said, man, it's talk is cheap. He never walked the talk when he had the opportunity to do so.
And of course, we've heard the horrible story about how your parents passed away, how they were stabbed to death and then they were burnt and used, basically their bodies being used as like sort of a bonfire as the white police officers continued drinking beer as if it's a party. It's quite horrible hearing about that. Today, a lot of people would say, but you must forgive.
Who do we forgive and for what? Who do we forgive and for what? You see, it's one thing for us to say, okay, we forgive de Klerk, but the law should not forgive de Klerk. The law should not forgive any of those individuals that were there that night when my father was killed. The law should not forgive any of those individuals that decided to play God and decide who should live and who should die. The law should not forgive. And you see, and we must be very careful around the history that we want to teach our children. De Klerk was an apartheid murderer. His hands was dripping with my father's blood, right? That's who de Klerk was. The fact that he led us out of apartheid and into a democracy was not because he did it out of the goodness of his heart. South Africa at the time was forced into that position because of the international sanctions. South Africa was bankrupt at the time. They had no other way to go but to sit down and negotiate themselves out of apartheid. You see, and part of those negotiations involved deals with the ANC for the apartheid operatives and security operatives not to be prosecuted for the crimes that they committed against our humanity. And maybe this state memorial service is part of those deals to say, you know what, when he dies, the state must remember him. President FW Cyril Ramaphosa is going to go and stand and eulogize a man today, a man who oversaw the deaths of our fathers. President Cyril Ramaphosa has refused for 2 years to acknowledge letters that we as the families had sent to him. He's refused to acknowledge any letters that we had sent to him, but he can go and stand there today and say, oh, de Klerk was a great man. Cisman, the ANC should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Just very quickly, Lukhanyo, I'm running out of time. Talking about the president and delivering the eulogy, today being the memorial, there are families such as yours who will be protesting outside the venue. Are you in support of that protest? Will your family be there, any of the Cradock 4 families?
Look, unfortunately, I mean, we just heard a few minutes ago about the protest. We weren't aware of it. I'm not sure if I am or will be going myself. Maybe I should. But look, we are in support of anything that seeks to remind people about who and what FW de Klerk really was, not what the president is going to say about him today.
All right. Thank you so much for your time here on ENCA and on Newslink. That is Lukhanyo Calata, the son of Fort Calata, one of the Cradock 4.